Welcome, my friends, to the Bob and Brad podcast, produced by Bob and Brad, the two most famous physical therapists on the internet. I am Bob, exactly one half of the Bob and Brad team. And today I'm going to be joined by the knees over toes guy. He's kind of came upon the scene here and has gone wild. His name is Ben Patrick. And if you have knee pain, actually, hip pain, knee pain, ankle pain, shoulder pain, he's got a unique system for treating this, and they're all free. They're on his website and they're on his YouTube channel, Knees Over Toes Guy. And it's really groundbreaking stuff. He's really quite a pioneer in the field, and I think you're going to enjoy this so much. I'm starting his exercises myself. I'm going to incorporate them into my life, and we're going to start probably doing some videos on them. You're really going to enjoy this. Why are knees over toes recommended? And I want to talk about your beliefs. Now, You kind of know the date where this first was stated, right?
Yeah, and I don't know if that's the only accurate way of describing it, but it does appear that there was a study in the 70s that determined that when your knee goes over your toes, it puts more pressure on your knees. So I think that was interpreted as, okay, don't let your knees over your toes. Now, there's also nothing better about knees over toes than not knees over toes. You would want to be capable in both positions, meaning like to target your glutes and your back and stuff. Then I actually coach exercises where you intentionally have your knees behind your toes, so
sure.
It's not an extremist approach. I would actually just say it's more of an extremist approach to say, don't let your knees over your toes. So you can do a lot of good with your knees behind your toes. However, when you go down steps, when you try to jump, like no 40-inch vertical in NFL combine history did not have knees over toes. So if you don't have that naturally, if you already have knee pain and knee surgeries, so I'm not advising someone with no knee pain and say, you better do as hard as you can, knees over toes. No, but for really, I'm out there for the hopeless and the broken who think, and I have 2,095 success stories of people who were in a hopeless situation thinking. I count a success story when someone thinks, I won't be able to play my sport again. I haven't been able to go up and down the stairs without pain for years. I can't get down and play with my kids. So I'm there for the hopeless and broken. If someone wants to take that even further, go for it,
Sure.
And at least if I lay it out in simple, ways of understanding, then someone without knee pain could still apply it at the level they feel, is sensible for them. But without doubt, I'm out there, for the hopeless and the broken who literally can't get to that unless they understand knees over toes training.
Well, I think the best example you gave is it's going to happen. Like in basketball, it's going to happen frequently, and it's going to be in uncontrolled circumstances, where in training, you can do it in controlled circumstances. So, I mean, it makes complete sense. So your success rate, as you alluded to, how many, I mean, I don't ask for a number here, but like the percentage of people are older. I mean, let's say you have
it's pretty balanced now. I mean,
oh, really?
We have people in their 70s, 80s. I'm trying to think if anyone 90, I think 91. Someone in their 90s. I'd say it's really balanced because I think more older people are on social media now. And I think also more younger people. I think more younger people who have older people in their lives and feel bad about what they're going through, see this and go, well, shit, my grandma could start doing that exercise,
Right.
This tibialis bar that I promote, which is just, it's like a bicep curl, but for your ankle dorsiflexion, for those tibialis muscles, which helps reduce the impact when we're landing and walking and decelerating. And I mean, there's no age that you can't do that, because you can start it at 0 pounds, So
The tibialis, not, you're not
I'll
talking
send
about
you one of those.
it's not the monkey.
The monkey foot is different, and
Oh.
I would say it's more like secondary knee pull-up reverse, meaning the monkey foot allows us to attach a weight to our foot to strengthen our hip flexors, which can be important because, like, I used to have no quad and hamstring muscles. Now I've got some pretty decent quad and hamstring muscles popping there. So if I'm going to add weight and muscle, and it doesn't mean it like, muscle doesn't just spring up overnight,
Right.
and I don't have like big thighs, but compared to what they were, I have a lot more muscle on my quads and hamstrings. And if you're going to alter one area of the body, now let's imagine if my hip flexors did not change in strength. That would be a problem for running. I could be risking hip injury, and I could also struggle from slow feet, meaning a powerful explosion when I try to push off the ground to get going. But when you reach top speed for athletes, the hip flexor becomes one of those deciding factors for people.
I've seen that too.
Yeah, so this was a constant problem because, again, gyms are not necessarily set up to resist that kind of stuff with a measurable weight. For me, everything has to be measurable in some way, shape, or form to know progress. And so the monkey foot is awesome. And I also think if your leg now literally feels lighter for you to lift up, you notice that your running mechanics become smoother. You become less of a thudder.
Gotcha.
And more of a glider. And so we see, like, over the course of seasons, people doing the hip flexor strengthening. It's like their knees, they feel like they didn't go through a season compared to people with weaker hip flexors. And,
Gotcha.
And I know, not to get too complicated here, but everything has to balance out in some way. So we're trying to strengthen those hip flexors, but at the same time, the way that we do split squats, which is like a common exercise, we do the split squat with full coverage of the front hamstrings over the calves, which makes it, rather than an up and down motion, it becomes a diagonal motion. And what that means is for the back leg, instead of the back leg going up and down and achieving, a decent hip flexor stretch, it stretches back. I don't know if this is,
I've started doing those.
I don't know if, is the video right now being recorded?
Yes, it is.
All right. I'm just going to do one.
Absolutely. Give us a
I may have to unplug the mic, and what I'm going to demo here is just what my split squat looks like, and then how that relates to hip flexor length, because we don't want to strengthen those hip flexors and leave them stiffer. So I'm going to plug this.
Gotcha. Yeah, you can see how much bend he's getting there, and look at that back leg, how much he's stretching the hip flexor on that. Oh, yeah, that's beyond my ability. That's for sure. Awesome.
So I can do the front splits cold any time of day. I can do a front.
That's amazing.
Split, and I don't stretch. Yeah, I don't stretch my hip squats. So again, I had to start those assisted. So I couldn't even do that with my own body weight. And I was very, very stiff. So I had to elevate the front foot so that the back leg angle was, rather than here, was maybe like here. So over time of reducing the assistance and handling your own body weight, you are adding load to those hip flexors compared to just a passive stretch, which is fine. I have nothing against passive stretching, but the next level would be something where we're actually loading the tissues through the stretch position. Now I can do that. I'm talking more like a maximum, but I can do that with a bar on the front with 100% of my body weight on it. Wow. So I don't do traditional squats or deadlifts. I actually only do basically physiotherapy type exercises on that scale of assisted to unassisted, handling your own body weight, to then load it. So like the very thing that got you out of pain in physiotherapy, what if you actually just tried to keep getting stronger? So that was also kind of a novice thing that I turned my whole system. I don't do that to prep for a regular. I don't do a regular split squat. I don't do a regular squat.
Yeah, I'm gonna
do these, and I think that's how athletic.
Sure. I'm gonna make a couple points here. One, you mentioned tibialis. You're talking about the anterior tibialis, not the posterior
Yep, yep,
tibialis.
yep.
Just to distinguish. I want to go right back to even the knees over the toes when somebody made that proclamation. And I heard you mention this before too, and I've heard it, read it too. In fact, heard the guy who invented the Rice technique, rest
Yeah.
information,
Rest, ice, compression,
ice
elevation.
compression. Yeah, he's backing off on that too.
Yeah, the very guy who made that, he has backed off on that and is more a fan of motion,
Yes, exactly.
exercise, heat. Now, I feel like if you look at that spectrum, I feel like the rest and the icing side would relate more to like an acute, thing
Right.
that happened. And the more chronic it is, well, the more we actually have to move and change those tissues. And actually icing and resting, I feel like, is a death wish for a chronic issue. That's
What I there's a video out there where on Kelly Starrett. Do you know
Yep,
him? The
of
supplement.
course, legend.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, legend. And he had a guy on it, and Kelly's following that example now of no ice, even for
Yeah.
acute. I mean, crazy, but
Oh, wow.
yeah, that might be a little
I mean,
radical, but it's something to think about.
yeah, I wouldn't make someone make a painful decision. So I
Right.
feel like if an acute thing happened that you are in pain, I feel like it would be smarter to get out of pain. Now, if something is chronic, then really, like how you said, how you turning the treadmill off and then trying to get it spinning backwards.
Right.
I mean, I've had thousands reach out with chronic issues saying that makes the pain go away better than ice and stuff. So if we compare
Right.
that,
Exactly.
if ice numbs it so you don't feel the pain, but it's not making you stronger, it's not getting, it's not regenerating, those tissues, it's not signaling you to be more protected. Whereas the other way around, we can just put win of getting blood flow and strengthening without pain at the same time. So this concept of going backwards is really like the foundation of my system. That's like the bedrock, is like, let's increase pain-free strength backwards. And walking backwards would be excellent, but dragging a sled backwards or moving the treadmill that's turned off backwards, those would really be the two most common methods that we're referring to. And going
Gotcha.
until you get a really good pain-free burn. Not to mention, for people with chronic issues, that can be a game changer to now get the body prepared to go into more. So the second level up is then actually working that tibialis muscle, because it's so painless, and it's just directly reducing how much impact is going to come up through those knees. Plus, as we keep progressing and want to get that ankle mobility, I find it's very hard to force more ankle mobility when you're not getting strong on the muscles on the front side. A bodybuilder wouldn't do only triceps and never biceps. He
Right.
would, anyone would look in and say, well, you're doing only triceps and you've never trained your bicep. Of course, your elbow is going to be out of whack or whatever. So with the ankle, if we never stretch and strengthen those muscles on the front side of the ankle, then we can really be limiting how much ankle mobility we can get into. And it just kind of, if you imagine running as fast as you could and then having to stop, and if you were to watch that in slow motion and we reach that heel out and now the heel hits the ground,
Right.
the amount of tibialis strength we have depends how hard is our foot going to get slammed. So chronic foot pains, every step you take out in life, if you're developing all the other muscles of your body but not your anterior tibialis, your
Right.
foot is going to take more impact than your body was designed to have. And then if your ankle, whatever your ankle can't handle, like theoretically, if your ankle was strong enough, you'd stop right then and there. But if we watch a deceleration, we see that the ankle starts trying and then the knee comes in. So whatever that ankle can't handle is shooting right up to the knee. So
Yeah. In fact, very good clinicians will always say there's three joints. You got the hip joint, the knee joint, and the ankle joint. And the knee joint's the weakest link. And so the hip and the knee are going to affect
the middle
the
child.
hip and ankle are going to affect the knee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, if you saw that split squat I did, I can't even get into that position without the ankle and the hip mobility.
Right.
So the ankle and the hip mobility then allow the knee to function and develop really beautifully. If I couldn't bend my hip, my knee would be screwed. If I couldn't bend my ankle, my knee would be screwed. So we kind of go from this, backward, which there's no eccentric loading, which is awesome, but not just in trying to get like out, of just getting going backwards. All of us from growing up in sports and life, we've done too much forwards and muscles, and it's from the feet. If you look when we walk forwards, walking and running forwards, when we stop, it's almost like how much force can we throttle into our ankles and knees? When you walk backwards, it's much more active. It's not passive. Starting from your big toe and then your ankle and your knee, you're loading and strengthening. So like you could imagine, if for someone that none of this is making sense, find the biggest hill near you and go up it backwards as fast as you can. Right. So, but most of us have not put in the time on all those reversal muscles. So knee pain is almost going to be a math equation of, well, what's your lifestyle? How much force are you putting in forwards versus how much reversal strength do you have? So it's really a nice little math equation there. And that's where everyone's going to have a different lifestyle. So if you're like a basketball player, most basketball players actively have knee pain. But in other sports, maybe for a golfer might be less likely to have knee pain. But maybe if they had some past injury,
right,
and then, so pain, knee surgeries can happen to just about anybody. But obviously certain pursuits in life are going to have more knee demands than others.
Yeah, it's funny. My daughter was having trouble with foot pain, and we found out it was her calf. If there's not mobility in the calf, it's got to go somewhere, and it went to the foot.
Yep.
And she stretched her calf and worked her calf, and it got better immediately. But you were cut out a little bit with the stretching thing. Now you really don't do stretching per se, but you do like the split squat. You're really doing stretching. I mean, it's
exactly.
It's contract, relax, stretching.
Exactly.
Really.
Oh yeah, big time. So, so like my philosophy on flexibility is just that I don't think of strength and flexibility as two different things. Every stretch and every strength exercise has some degree of load.
Got it.
Some degree of range of motion.
Got it. Yeah.
Even a passive stretch has some degree of load.
Sure.
Even a bench press has some degree of range of motion. Meaning if now my philosophy, when I was coaching a high school football team, I went to a local steel company and I had special bars made so that they couldn't even get the bar to the chest because the bar went out so far from their chest. So they would still work their bench press, but through a full range of motion. And then I would attach chains on the bar so they could go all the way down, but then where we're weaker, all the way down. And then as they would fire out, the chains lift off the ground and it gets heavier. So they're pressing the same amount they can bench press at the top, but they're opening up their pec mobility at the bottom. And we got rid of everyone's shoulder pain by restoring that range of motion. So I just find that for most people, you're going to need to start with passive stretching, which, like I said, is some degree of loading. And then if we can progress from that passive stretch, or let's just call it a static stretch, like we all think of like a stretch, like just holding a stretch. If you go on a slant board and you just hold that stretch for your calf and you contract the tibialis muscle on the front and you just hold that for 60 seconds, 3 sets of that can totally unlock someone's ankle mobility. But what's going to keep us from tightening back up over again and stuff like that would now be actually doing strength exercises from those ranges of motion. So that's kind of my philosophy on it is I'm not anti-strength. I'm not anti-flexibility. And I look at any human motion is some degree of stretch and some degree of load, even if it doesn't seem challenging on either end. And where we can make those two kind of meet in harmony, I find we get like ridiculous bulletproofing effects when we can actually get a safe load through a stretched position.
What this kind of brings me to the question, what other areas of the body do you address? Because obviously you deal with knees, but
Full body.
ankles and hips. So do you do the neck?
All right, good question. I would say the only two that are not like staple parts of my system are neck and wrist. And for those, I have special videos and programs for neck and wrist. So like the neck, if you take one of those head harnesses and you work on a cable machine, the classic one would be working the extension, but you could turn the other way and work the flexion. And you could also then resist it here, and you could work turning that way. You could work turning that way. And you could even, if you hold that neck harness on tight, you can even work twisting. Sure. And you can get that with measurable load. So there's going to be like, 6 basic neck motions. Now, again, I'm not saying anything as an absolute. Someone else could have a system just as good or better, but that's just an example. But I don't make everyone work out the neck. I don't make everyone work out the wrist, but the wrist kind of naturally will have some degree of good mobility and strength from doing the exercises. Right. And same with the neck, based on the different pullover exercises we do and stuff. Your neck and wrist will have a decent baseline from doing the system, which addresses ankles, knees, hips, spine, quadratus lumborum, all through the spine and shoulders and elbows. You'll have a decent base. For someone like a baseball player, I would be doing extra wrist work. Same thing with your wrist. You have the good old flexion extension, but I've trained tons of baseball players with chronic elbow pain, and they're not working with a Thor's hammer and working pronation and supination, and then having it straight, the arm straight down, and working ulnar and radial, so you can load 6 different motions really easily on the wrist. So I even have that one as a free article online. So yeah, in my system, it's ankles, knees, hips, spine, shoulders, elbows, but I do have solutions for those who need extra neck and wrist, which is not everyone. So I'm not going to force people to do tedious wrist and neck work if they don't need it.
So if the 50-year-old person comes in and they're having just knee problems, you're going to work ankle and hip, but you're also going to work shoulder or not? I mean, Monday,
Wednesday, Friday, in all my programs, we work lower body, and that's including ankles, knees, hips, and some of the spine stuff that connects down into the hamstrings.
Gotcha.
Tuesday, Thursday is really just focusing on mobility and shoulders and elbows and extra back stuff, more for the upper back. So, the same kind of person who's going to have knee pain, well, they're still going to have the other days of the week. I don't want them, getting shoulder pain, on their, so I put stuff there. I used to only deliver the knees, but you can imagine I have 1,000 questions a day. What should I do for this? What should I do for that? So it's pretty gentle. The goals are not extreme. Everything still is on that scalable, that really scalable concept. But yes, we're also going for, bulletproof back and shoulders and elbows. And I like that. I personally like that balance, because for people who have had knee pain, having 3 days really working from the ground up and then only a couple shorter sessions on the upper body keeps a nice balance. So we're getting a lot more volume coming from the ground up.
Ben, would you mind mentioning what is the average time commitment per day?
I try to tailor every workout so it doesn't take longer than 30 minutes.
Oh, so nice.
Yeah, I mean, someone could go longer than that, and I'm often working on like bonus options and finishers, for the person who wants to do more. Number one, I mean, life is long, so like if I can get the results in 30-minute sessions that then we can recover from better, like, could you do it every day on your legs? You could, but we do it Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and leave Tuesday, Thursday, and weekends to rest the legs and the knees. So like you could do it an hour, you could do it every day, but I feel like you would be increasing risk. And if anything, get out of the muck. And then maybe as you're getting more bulletproof, like I'm starting to work on like some extra 10-minute finishers for, okay, I'm crushing my 30-minute sessions.
Sure.
I want like an extra finisher. I don't want to break down. I want to keep bulletproofing, but I do want to, really have that gassed feeling, at the end of a session. So,
and plus you could do other
baseline.
training with your program.
Exactly.
You have time.
I train ultra marathon runners. The ultra marathon runner already has so much to do that if I'm going more than 30 minutes in a session, I just don't know if that's going to be realistic to follow.
Right, exactly.
I also train power lifters. One of my favorite weeks a couple weeks ago, I helped a power lifter. He squatted over 1,000 pounds for the first time in his life. And he had been stuck at like 875 with knee pain. So he used these exercises to then be able to do his powerlifting. And if powerlifters, they spend half an hour on their accessory work,
Right.
they do auxiliary exercises. So this formed his auxiliary exercises for his power lifts. And in that same week, helped one of these ultra, I forget what it was, like 100 miles or something.
Right.
And he was able to do it without knee pain, which for him was like the first time he'd ever done one of these ultras without his knees breaking down, so, but I feel like we're all somewhere on that spectrum. I'm a new father with a 9-month-old. And if my workout has to go long, if I'm going to be missing key ingredients, that is going to take me longer than 30 minutes. I don't know if I'd even be able to follow my own system,
Sure. Ben, would you mind giving your website and YouTube channel, Instagram again?
Yep.
Because it's kind of a separate section here.
Sure. Yep. atgonlinecoaching.com is the website. That's the only place that I work. And then I try to put out quote unquote, library philosophy, educate. I try to educate daily. I was traveling, had a little lull, so I was maybe doing 3 videos a week, but I usually am trying to put out 7 educational videos a week on my YouTube, the Knees Over Toes Guy. And then I'll put pieces of those that are, maybe bite-sized pieces that people on Instagram and TikTok will have the attention span for.
Gotcha. Yeah. Which is a big issue nowadays.
Yeah.
So, all right. Okay. I'm going to ask you, are you opposed to foam rollers or massage guns, or do you feel they aren't needed?
So I think that there's a lot of different pieces of the puzzle, and you have nutrition, and there's chiropractic, and there's like you said, foam rollers, soft tissue treatment. There's a lot of puzzle. I don't do any of these things. I don't take any supplements. I used to take like some pre-workout, which I really enjoyed. I love the company that there's a company called Legion Supplements. I don't get any kickbacks or anything.
Sure.
So like I took their pre-workout. I think that probably helped me mentally to train, but I don't take any supplements anymore. I definitely don't take any supplements joints. So I look at it, if I took it for my joint, that would directly reduce my knowledge of how effective my program is.
Gotcha.
If I foam rolled even one, that would directly reduce my certainty of what my program is doing for me. So if people who follow me on social media, I've been going a few years now that I put my knees to the test 7 days a week, and I don't do anything for recovery. I don't do literally any kind of recovery or treatment thing that you could name. It would all be a no to. I only do my 30-minute sessions, literally nothing else. And I feel like that's what's made my program really well. So the truth is, I don't know if it would work better with those things, because that's not my role.
Gotcha.
But if other people, if other people master these other things, well, then someone can come in, I feel like, and get, like, imagine if I tried to play basketball, not do any exercise, and just use recovery tools. That would make me the best at that.
Right.
So
makes sense.
Absolutely. Hopefully that explains it.
Yep.
So I can't pretend to be an expert and give an opinion on whether they work or not. I'd be a hypocrite if I tried to pretend that I was an expert on any kind of recovery or even joint supplements or anything like that.
I have to be honest, I'm not a supplement fan either, but that's neither here nor there.